best place to do it is on a state and local level. The Republicans, they have a trifecta in the federal government right now, but we get to choose our own battlefield. And we have the same thing down here in Maryland. Um, the biggest challenge that we are going to be facing here in the state is going to be around the budget. It's all over the news. It's everywhere. Everyone's talking about it, but we can't afford to reverse the progress that our state has made, especially on climate. We'll go to the next slide, please. So why lobby? Why do all this? For myself at least, about 2 years altogether, I worked as a legislative aide in the General Assembly, including for someone that we're going to be lobbying ourselves at the Renew Act hearing on February 13th. But in my work, I heard from people all over the district, all over the state, every single day. And these are people whose experiences that I had never known about or encountered before. Historic neighborhoods that were trying to stay alive through record flooding, people with terminal illnesses or people that had lost their loved ones and are trying to get changes enacted into law. Even heard from someone who wanted to build a shopping mall on top of I-95. I don't know how well that's going, but I guess we'll see this year. Uh, but overall, I heard it all from everyone on every single side of the aisle, and it gave me perspectives that I just couldn't get from a news article or a policy paper. And when a big part of your job is analyzing policy or writing speeches and even legislation, knowing how people are really feeling makes the important parts of the work and the policy that much clearer. So why lobby? Why do we do this? First thing is it makes an impact. Legislators considered nearly 3,000 bills just here in Maryland last year, and they hear from lobbyists and advocacy groups every single day. But hearing from you gives them that local perspective, but also with a story that is clear, that is personal to you, and is very impactful. So when we first submitted testimony, I think we got about 10 pieces of testimony just from our volunteer group. For the Renew Act, some of you included actually pictures of climate impacts you've already faced in your neighborhoods, flooding, tornadoes, all kinds of awful stuff that's going on, how it's affecting you, and making the case this is why we need the Renew Act. It shouldn't be up to you to just open up every time something bad happens, or for the next disaster. The polluters really got to be paying for this stuff. And that's really a greater connection than any ad campaign, any corporate lobbying campaign can build. And we know that the oil and gas companies are going to use every tool in the book that they've got to stop climate action. But we can use the same tools to convince legislators to be a part of our progress. Second thing is it builds community. For all the people here, how many of you have done something like this before? We have some folks that have been lobbying for quite a bit, but many others who this is their first time getting involved in something like this. And now more than ever, I talked about the political moment a little bit, but now more than ever, all of the knowledge that we share and the coalitions that we're building with each other can't just go away. It can't disappear after just one election cycle or one legislative session. It's going to have to be a self-sustaining movement that builds every single year, every single day that we are doing this. And each one of you is bringing in people who have never done this before to make that movement a reality. Third thing is it grows and demonstrates popular support. So not every legislator is going to support our goals. They're not everyone is going to support our policies, but even if they don't provide the answers that we're looking for, we can still pack the room and show them who is going to hold them accountable and who ultimately they're going to have to answer to, which is their constituents. So tonight, I want to help create a group of people like me, a group of folks that are excited to be a part of lobbying teams and are going to share their story about why these climate issues are so important so that we can help each other make a real difference. So I'm going to go over the legislation. First thing is the Renew Act, our biggest priority, HB 128, SB 149. We have fact sheets for each of these bills. I will send you by email in a follow-up. But our key message is we're already paying for the rising cost of all of these climate crises. And we have to confront the reality of those escalating costs and protect Marylanders by making the polluters pay. We got enough stuff to deal with right now. People were talking about eggs. Eggs are $7. All of this foolishness. Polluters got to pay for what they're doing to us. And it's not a tax. It is a one-time assessment to support climate resiliency across the state. So and it's not just Maryland companies either, it's any company that has emitted over 1 billion tons of greenhouse gases over the past 30 years. Those are the folks that we are asking the Maryland Department of the Environment to perform a study to figure out what the level of damage they have caused to the rest of us. So we'll go to the next slide, please. We do have a short video. How are we doing on time? Are we good?
You are right on time, Dustin.
All right, let's do it.
Dippy, are you looking at your text
Yes,
chat?
I just saw the chat and I'm about to send you.
All right. Oh, I think it stopped the video here.
Sorry, was the sound coming through for the video?
Yes, yes, we could hear it.
Okay, great. I'm sorry about that. I had audio issues there for a second. Okay.
You are.
We're in Ellicott City in Maryland. It's a historic mill town. Water is a big part of this town's existence. It's part of the charm. It's the lovely babbling brook. But then you get to the two events that wreaked havoc here. In 2016, I got a call from one of my employees saying that the building was really leaking. It's this big, powerful storm that dumped something like 6 inches of water in an hour and a half. There were cars going down the street, dumpsters going down the street. There were people who were stuck in the path of the water. It was a terrifying event. The river is actually there, and it came up, but then the water just sort of gets aimed straight across the street, which is why we had so many problems in that part of our store. The building held for a little bit, but couldn't hold the water back indefinitely. The store is devastated. There was water and mud everywhere, every inch, every surface. We believed that this would never happen again, and it happened really right away. The second time, I think we were just heartbroken. And those cycles seem to be becoming more and more frequent. This town can't roll back the effects of climate change. All we can do is be prepared for what might happen. They've already built multiple retaining ponds. All of that takes phenomenal sums. And so that funding is critical to getting those projects completed and saving a town, saving business, saving lives. We need the Renew Act to go through.
What do you all think of that? Do you think Many of you have seen kind of our fact sheets talking about what the Renew Act does and why we need it, but hearing directly from someone who's not just painting the picture, but is showing us what the effects of climate change are on his neighborhood and his community, that's huge, and it's greatly impactful. Let's go to ACE. So we call it ACE, but it is the Affordable Abundant Clean Energy Act, HB 396 or SB 316. So we're really in an energy price crisis. You may have seen, at least here in Baltimore, they're going to be raising utility prices once again. And a lot of it's really due to a lack of planning around fossil fuel, retiring fossil fuels, and new generation that needs to get added at the regional level. So this bill sets up the state to build as many clean energy resources as possible within the boundaries of our state to increase our energy independence. So that's things like virtual power plants. That's battery storage. So the wind power and solar power that we have, sun goes down, wind goes away, we still capture that energy and are able to use it when we need it the most. It also uses measures to protect ratepayers and ensure they get the benefits of the clean and renewable energy, and that all of the cost savings don't just go to the energy provider. The governor's also introduced the Energize Act, which would get us closer to achieving 100% clean energy by 2035. But it also incentivizes the construction of nuclear energy, which is, it's one of those things. But our key message is, Marylanders, we have to take back control of utility bills. And the fastest way to do that is with no regrets investments in clean energy. The sun doesn't just shine on BG&E, it shines on all of us. So we should all be getting those benefits. Go to the Better Buildings Act. Better Buildings Act. So we are waiting on bill language from the Department of Legislative Services. The bill is not completely written yet. They are working on it. But that gives us a chance to shop the bill around to get lots of co-sponsors. Essentially, this eliminates a lot of the bias that's present in new home construction and just new construction in general towards fossil fuels, and encourages energy efficiency. So things like heat pumps, green roofs, all of that fun stuff. Not gas stoves. Everyone's talking about gas stoves. It's not in the bill. Don't worry about it. You can keep your gas stove, but at least here in Baltimore, Zippy runs a wonderful kitchen testing program for all of those crazy gas stoves. I'm a Southerner, so I've never used them. Requires all new buildings under 20 stories to be solar ready. All electric new construction is healthier for the public and the planet. It just makes sense. Energy or electricity, it doesn't care where it comes from, but we all need it. Might as well use what we've got just around the state. And fully electric homes, they're going to be smart from the start and reduce a lot of these skyrocketing utility costs. You can go to the next slide, please. No new gas. This is a new thing. So there's a lot of information that we're still kind of waiting to see on this in terms of just concrete plans, where they want to put it. Most likely Baltimore, we will see. No bill language is available yet, but it is kind of being pushed by Senate President Ferguson and Chair Feldman, who runs the Senate Education, Energy, and the Environment Committee. They've both explicitly expressed their support of new gas generation to the press and at public events. So we want to make sure that they know, Marylanders, we don't want that. We don't need it. We can do other things. Having another gas plant after we've already enacted these climate goals, it just holds us back. So we've really got to defend our progress. Building a new fossil fuel plant is, first of all, the most expensive. It is the slowest. It takes a lot of time to spin up. And it's the most polluting option for meeting our growing energy needs. Like I said, we don't know a lot of specifics. No bill language is available yet, but I'm pretty sure they're not going to put it in Potomac. So Marylanders would be better served by investments in utility scale batteries and other clean technologies that are much more affordable and much faster to deploy and get out there. So we're going to put a link. I'm going to put a link to the letter in the chat here. We have an organizational sign-on letter, and we're planning a virtual event for this as well. But if you have any organizations that you can share this with, I know some folks, we have representatives from Third Act. There may be another organization that you are involved with. Take this link in the chat here and send it out to them so we can really show how broad our coalition is against a new fossil fuel plant. Right. And I will pass it to you, Zippy.
So now we're going to take some immediate questions on legislative priorities and how to talk about them. I was actually in the middle of answering one right in the chat, so I have a couple that I want to just jump to handle before we open it up. So Susie asked, construction folks have said it costs more to build new buildings that are electric only, although they concede that maintenance costs less over time. Can you provide data countering this, please? And what I would answer is that a lot of the reason it costs less to build gas is because codes are biased in favor of gas in ways which might be cost effective, but are counter to health. So specifically, building codes don't require venting to the outside for gas stoves, which is the only documented way to guarantee safe air quality levels when gas stoves are operated. And implementing that measure would raise the cost of installing a gas stove. Besides that, when we talk about whether or not it costs more to build all gas or all electric, the question of whether or not it costs more to build one or the other or both is actually what we need to consider, because if we're already going to be building an electric system, building a second gas system on top of it is so our options are really all electric or electric and gas, and together it costs more to build gas and electric, especially with and besides for that, a lot of the electric appliances are going to have subsidies available to them through IRA subsidies, which has already been dispersed to the states. So we expect to still be available in the next year at the point of purchase for electrification. And aside from that, for folks for whom we can't really financially afford full electrification, there are groups that are trying to provide imperfect solutions like induction cooktops to use in place of your gas stove until you can replace it, or window-mounted heat pumps that run on 120 volt electricity so that they are able to not require a panel upgrade. Rob had a great question. Does the Energize Act not include a methane gas plant, or is a bill promoting methane gas plants still to be introduced? Dustin, do you have the answer to that one?
Can you restate the question one more time, please?
Does the Energize Act include the methane gas incentives, or is that a separate bill that's still going to be introduced?
That I am unsure of.
Okay. I think, Rob, let's make a note to get back to you on that one, and we'll put the answer in the follow-up email when we have it. Does anybody else have questions about how we are messaging on these bills, how these bills work? You can put it in the chat.
I have a comment.
Oh, Joel, I see a hand.
Yeah, I just wanted to add a little bit to the no new gas as one who has done many calculations on carbon footprint. I happen to use the EPA program portfolio manager, but there are others that one could use. Gas has a major impact on our carbon footprint. And if we want to achieve carbon neutrality, we've got to get rid of gas.
Absolutely. And I think something that we need to be careful of in this conversation is letting the Overton window slip the wrong way, because we not only need to just protect the climate progress we've been making, we need to make faster progress than we have been making because things are getting worse. And we need to be talking about how building new gas is the opposite of what we need, and what we need is to accelerate our climate progress. So speaking of, let's talk about how we frame conversations effectively by moving on to our next slide, where we'll discuss how to have an effective conversation. So, what you want to do generally during these conversations is avoid some common pitfalls, and some of those pitfalls are we'll go over in a second, but I want to just frame things in terms of the key points that we want to know about how to have these conversations, which is, first, you want to be respectful. You want to demonstrate appreciation for the meeting and the work that the legislators have done for you. You want to look to find common ground with each other. And you want to, as a group, provide facts about the issue, including something to leave behind, like a handout. You want to share impactful personal stories about how these issues affect you personally. And you want to make a hard ask prompting a yes or no answer with clear next steps for follow-up. So before we ask what folks have seen that are good tactics for having an effective conversation with your legislator, I see that we have one more hand.
Hi, yes. Thank you to the organizers for putting this on tonight. And yeah, my name is Alana Ginsberg. I volunteered with CCAN during the election season. And I am curious, so Brandon Shores and Wagner are coal plants that they were intended to be retired in 2025, but they're because of reliability are going to be extended. There was an agreement reached between PJM and Talen, the owner of those power plants. And I'm wondering if with the Renew Act, if that is something that you're going to speak, that's a talking point.
So retiring those coal plants is definitely important, especially as like the conversation around Wagner being included in no new gas is, or being included as incentives to convert to a gas plant is part of what's being talked about. And I think funding for climate priorities and for adjusting to the kind of grid we need is going to be crucial. Yeah, so that Renew is definitely part of the conversation for why we can have the kind of climate progress we need without relying on gas to meet our needs. But now I want to wrap up the question section and pass it over to lobby roles for Mustafa.
Great, thanks so much. There's a key part of having a really good meeting with legislators is to have a predetermined agenda and roles. So your and this is all in the link to the Google Drive folder I put in the chat a few minutes ago, which will also be emailed out later, and we'll put it in the chat again when you do the breakouts. But the first thing is you want to have a meeting facilitator, a lobby captain, someone who's responsible for the meeting. So they are initiating the meeting, they're leading introductions, they're providing a meeting overview, they're doing closing, and they're just making sure that the trains are moving in the right direction. Then you've got the storytellers, so people who make the message personal and speak to why the legislator should act on these issues. It's important and impactful. Earlier I said that I'm taking action on climate because I decided to have biological children, and if I was sharing a story, I would lean into like the moments of actually deciding to do that and weighing like what it was like weighing that tension for me. So leaning into the story portion and not just the one sentence summary of it. The pitchers, they make a hard ask, and they're prepared to respond to questions and just follow up strategically to the legislator to persuade them. And then the other pieces here, the other roles are the recorder, like a note taker, so they take comprehensive notes. We're having folks, once they complete their lobby meetings, to submit a lobby report form, and this person would take responsibility for doing that. And then a timekeeper. So we just got to make sure that we stay on time for the meetings. It might be that you have scheduled 30 minutes with the legislator, and then they had something that came up for them, and they say at the beginning of the meeting, we've only got 15 minutes. Really important to have a timekeeper that keeps us on track. And then the supporting actors. So we show strength in numbers. That's really, really important. So with with your lobby visit roadmap, with your agenda, the lobby captain is actually going to start off the meeting with introductions, maybe demonstrating appreciation to the legislator, both for having the meeting with them, but also for anything that the legislator has done. Maybe there are issues that you personally care about that they've taken a stance on. I would encourage you to take a little bit of time just to Google about them and look up their bios. You might find things that you find genuinely impressive. And then tell them, summarize for them what's the goal of this meeting? What are we going to be talking about? And then have folks moving into have the storytellers tell the stories about why each of these bills are important to them that you want to talk about. Have a person who's ready to deliver the hard ask. Have your pitchers be ready. So we want to make sure, say, hey, will you support this bill? Will you vote for it? And when it comes to your committee, be really direct and clear about the asks. And then the lobby captain and anybody else who is playing a support role can help answer any questions that the legislators or the staff might have. And then ending with a clear process for follow-up with the legislator and any next steps. So we want to make sure that we're being really clear. I want to take a moment to talk about the asks. So I want to make sure that we're being really direct, clear, and specific. So as I mentioned, for example, let's say we'll have some folks who'll be meeting with Chair Feldman, who's the chair of the Senate Education, Environment, and Energy Committee. And, you may decide that you want to talk about not having any new gas plants being built as a part of your agenda. And so you will want to say to him, ask him, Senator Feldman, will you not support the building out of any new gas generation in state? And so you may say yes. Okay, so then it's like, okay, so what can we do to make sure that this doesn't get passed by any committee and have a chance of surviving? And what can you do to make sure that doesn't happen? So we want to be very direct and specific with the asks that we're making. And then provide a one-page leave behind. So we want to make sure that we'll have in your folders for when you go meet with the legislators, we're going to have the one-pagers that are in that Google Drive folder. We're going to have printed copies of for all the teams to be handing out to legislators and their staff. Really important to leave a leave behind. The worst possible outcome for any of these meetings is that you leave and the legislator has no idea why you were there. They were not clear what you wanted from them. So the ask is really, really, really key here, along with being able to articulate the why these issues are so important to you all. So I'm going to kick it to Tippy to talk about just the common pitfalls to be looking out for.
Yeah, so as you start to do more of these meetings and get more familiar with Annapolis and your legislators and the staff members in their offices, you might start to notice a couple of patterns with how they hold these meetings, and you might be able to anticipate some of the things that they're going to do. And you might also start to notice some common mistakes, but we're trying to make the most of the meetings that we have and give you some ideas of what can go wrong before we get there, so that you can have an idea of how to get the most out of these meetings and how to get the most out of the practice session that we're going to do later during this training. So generally, you want to try and avoid interrupting the representatives or aides or raising unrelated topics. Trying to talk about too many things in a meeting is often one of the things that people try to do at first. It's a good reason to have more meetings, is if you can't talk about all the things that you care about. Talking too much and not making it a conversation and engaging with the person you're meeting with is a really common pitfall. Making an unclear ask that allows them to not answer yes or no, or not say when they're going to get back to you, or really just not give an answer at all. If they ask specific policy questions, answering questions you're unsure about is definitely something we want to avoid. In fact, it's a really great opportunity to have another chance to follow up by saying, you know, I don't know that answer right now, but I know just who to ask and I can get them in touch with you next week. Can we set up another meeting? And getting angry is something we want to avoid also. Our legislators might disappoint us and we want to let them know that we're going to hold them accountable if they do. But we want to do it with a calm and even tone and maintain a professional demeanor, because that's the best way to keep advancing our agenda to get climate action passed. So what can we expect to see from our legislators? We'll see it on the next slide. Generally, they'll want to spend some time connecting with you, and often they might try to spend too much time connecting with you at the beginning. They'll want to know all about your neighborhood. They'll want to know about the block party that you had. They'll want to know who you know in common. They might be so interested in learning about you and who you are that you never even get around to talking about your bill. So we want to avoid that either in the personal conversation or when we get to the policy part of the conversation. So when we're introducing ourselves, we want to keep the legislator on task. And then when we're talking about policy, often they'll try to be really vague or give unrelated answers or not answer things clearly. Generally, they'll like answer things with non sequiturs, and what we want to do is follow up to get them to be specific. So before we move on to the next slide, I just want to ask, has anybody seen another common behavior from their legislator that they'd like to share? I see a hand from Mike, but I also see it was up beforehand.
Just a quick question. If you do know the legislature, you know, either from other places socially, yeah, is it a good idea to kind of, you know, emphasize that just not too much, but a little bit, or just sort of
Yeah, it never hurts to have a personal connection. You just don't want to let the personal connection take up 10 of the 15 minutes of your meeting.
Yeah.
So Sarah says that one of the people hid in the office next door to avoid constituents. Check out their picture before you go so you don't walk by them. Which is one of the things that we did for our first day of session rally, I believe, is get pictures of our legislators. I see a hand from John Eckenrode. You're muted, John.
Yeah, I think you may have this second thought. The idea of they may try to filibuster or raise unrelated topics. How to steer a discussion back on track if somebody is they're getting off onto something unrelated, and either whether they want to hear about an unrelated issue or not, or whatever. How do you get to respectfully, but at the same time, get them back on track?
I think the answer to that is a great segue into the next slide, because counterintuitively, I think the way that you can get a representative to get back onto the topic that you want to talk about is by listening really, really well. So specifically, and I'm jumping to the something about the third point here, that listening really matters. And I think this matters because it helps you to know when to speak and what to say in order to make the impact you're hoping to make. You want to ask questions that feed back into what they say and respond in a way that directs them towards the outcome that you are hoping for. And them talking is not necessarily a bad thing. We're not saying don't let them talk, because like the first point says here, the more a member talks about a topic, the smarter they think you are, because you are there and affirming what they are telling you. Often you want to put several questions together in advance that are helpful for guiding the conversation. So for example, when I had the opportunity to speak with the Speaker of the House, Speaker Jones, I asked, what climate policies are you looking forward to that can bring resources to your district? And she said she wasn't sure, but she hoped that whatever it was would bring help for her schools and for the education sector. And so I had the opportunity to tell her about Renew and the way that it funded new HVAC systems for schools to avoid heat days. So you can see that I didn't necessarily know what the answer to that question would be, but I know that one of the answers is going to put me towards one of my policy goals. Now there's a helpful acronym for this that I like to use called LARA, where you want to listen to what the person says, you want to affirm that you have heard and share some value with what they said. You want to respond with your viewpoint and where you hope they will go. And you want to add something that you hope they will do next or that you would like them to commit to. And so I hope that this gives you a guide for how to frame your conversation in a way that allows you to use listening to be more effective in the way that you respond to a legislator or a staff member who is trying to give you the runaround when you're trying to fight for climate action. Next, what do we do after our lobby meetings? So you want to definitely compare notes. everybody sees things differently, and we all notice different parts of these meetings because there's a lot that's going on. And so sharing with each other our impressions and what we notice about the other people in the room can help us get a full picture of what was going on so that we can have the most accurate idea of where the legislator is at following the meeting. You want to send a prompt follow-up email, brief with a thank you and signed from everyone in the meeting. You want to thank the staff and elected official for their time. You want to remind them of the key points that were in the meeting, as well as provide additional expert information. And you want to remind the staff or elected official of what they may have agreed to and say that you look forward to following up with them when they have, so whenever that deadline is. So like, let's say they said, we can read the bill in a week. You want to say, I look forward to hearing back from you in a week when you've read the bill. You want to be persistent. So if the elected official or staff member doesn't meet the deadline that you agreed to during the meeting, you want to ask them to set another deadline and just make sure that you understand what the block was and see if there's anything that you can do to address why there was a holdup. You want to let coalition partners and relevant issue organizations know what you learned during the meeting so that we can all work together as a movement to get as much as we can done on these climate priorities. And now I am going to pass it back to Mustafa, who is going to help us model one of these meetings before we break up and practice them ourselves.
Great. Thanks so much, Sippy. So we are going to model, we're going to go ahead and model one of our, a meeting. So here's what here's actually how we're going to do this though. So we're going to first take 5 minutes to simulate setting up the meeting. And then we're going to take and then we're going to take about 13 minutes to actually do a model meeting, and then 2 minutes to do a group debrief before we set you all up to break out into groups to do this. So the context for this meeting is that Dustin is the chair of the Senate Energy, Education, and Environment Committee. And we're meeting with him because, number one, any bill that would incentivize the building of a new gas plant would go through his committee. And number two, the ACE and RENEW Act have been assigned to his committee as well. So we're meeting with Dustin because we want to, one, ensure that we don't pass legislation that would incentivize the building of new gas plants. And we want, number two, we want for him to hold hearings on our priority bills and get them passed out of committee. So we'll hear if he has any concerns, questions, and see what his assessment of the pathway to victory, if we can get that from him, will be very helpful. So first, we're going to run a mini prep session for the meeting, and something that you'll do very soon. And so we'll go into that right now. So, okay. I know that we have some of our lobby captains that are here, and thank you so much for being on this team with me to go meet with Senator Dustin. I wanted to just, you all just heard the goals that we have been corresponding with over email, the things we wanted to be talking about for the session, for this meeting. I wanted to confirm, do those goals sound right to you? We want to talk about no new gas, and we want to be talking about the RENEW Act and ACE, and getting commitments on those from Senator Dustin.
Yeah, sure. Sounds good to me.
Okay, great. So we will need roles for people to fill those. So I'll be the lobby captain. I'm going to do the opening, which I will briefly talk about no new gas and just briefly preview the bills. Who would like to share the story, be a storyteller for why we should have no new gas plants and we should be getting ACE passed this year? And who would want to do that?
Are you asking all of us on the call, or is it just you're asking somebody from CCAN?
I'm inviting lobby captains. So Rob, you're a perfect fit.
All right, I can I can tell a story. This is for no new gas.
For no new gas and ACE.
Okay.
Awesome. Thanks, Rob. Who wants to be the pitcher for asking that there not be any getting a support for no new gas plants to be built out and to get ACE passed out of the committee and done this session?
I can do that. I think I need practice.
There you go, Bill. Awesome.
Okay.
Awesome. And Sippy, on both of these issues for ACE and Renew, would you mind just being a volleying person to help answer questions that come from Senator Dustin?
Absolutely. I'm happy to go toe to toe on the policy details with the senator.
One question, Mustafa and Zippy, is Senator Dustin on a committee? I couldn't hear if this bill is actually directly before this hypothetical Senate.
So he's the chair of the Senate Environment and Energy and Education Committee, and all three of these issues are before his committee.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah. There's no bill yet for the no new gas, but we know that
it will go there.
It would have to go through his committee. Yeah. Great. Who wants to share the story for why we need the Renew Act?
I could do that.
Susie, thank you so much. And who would like to make the ask for supporting the Renew Act, getting it passed out of the committee and done the session, getting it passed?
I'll do that.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And lastly, is there somebody who would just be willing to take notes on how the meeting's going and what Senator Dustin tells us?
I can do that.
Oh, Glenn, awesome. Thanks so much, Glenn. Thank you. Okay. Awesome, great. So we're going to go into our practice here in just a second. So, okay. I think I'm ready, Dustin. Senator Dustin, are you ready?
Thank you. I really like the sound of that. The first time I heard it. Senator Dustin. Let's do it.
Let's do it. Okay. All right. So thank you so much, Senator Dustin, just for meeting with us. My name is Mustafa. I'm a volunteer leader with the Chesapeake Climate Action Network Action Fund. And we have a few things that we want to talk about today. But before we move forward, when we scheduled this meeting, I think you said you had 15 minutes. I just want to confirm that you have 15 minutes still to talk.
Yeah, I got a hard stop at 2 p.m., but I can do at least 15.
Okay, thank you so much. So I think it's really important for us to start off with just by saying that I'll give folks an opportunity to introduce their constituents, introduce themselves in a moment. But we're meeting with you today because we're really concerned about protecting our climate progress. And we want to discuss how we can generate clean energy in Maryland, how we can bring revenue to our state, and also hit our climate goals. And it's particularly concerning because specifically some in leadership have openly talked about the possibility of building a new fossil fuel plant, which is the most expensive, the slowest, it causes the most pollution, it's the most polluting option for meeting our growing energy needs. And as you might be aware, Senator Dustin, the PJM, the organization that manages the energy projects that get connected to the grid, it's years behind getting renewable energy projects online, which has just delayed our ability to reach our climate goals. So we want to say no to gas and just talk to you about how we can, again, generate clean energy in Maryland. We want to, number two, bring revenue to our state via the RENEW Act. So that's House Bills 128 and Senate Bill 149. I've got the handouts right here for you, sir. They're sponsored by Senator Hester and Delegates Fraser Hidalgo and Boafo. And then the Abundant and Affordable Clean Energy Act, which is sponsored by Delegate Lord Charkoudian. And so, and lastly, we really want to make sure we stay on track to hit our climate goals. So, but first, I just want to invite the constituents just to introduce themselves briefly, and we'll talk about these three issues. So, if constituents, if you can just share your name and what part of the district you're from, that'd be great. You can just share your real district, your real neighborhood.
I'm Susie
Let me
Cheston
start
in
off.
Tacoma Park.
Susie, go ahead. Susie, go ahead. Yeah, great.
I'm Rob Wald. I live in Silver Spring.
I'm Bill Massioli. I also live in Silver Spring.
Johanna Wormers, and I live in Rockville.
I'm Zippy Horowitz, and I live in Glen Burnie.
Awesome. Thank you all. Thank you all so much. So I'm going to pass it, Senator Dustin, to Rob to just share a bit more about why this is so important, no new gas and the Affordable and Abundant Clean Energy Act. So Rob?
Thank you, Mustafa, and thank you, Senator, for setting aside time for us. I have a very personal reason for opposing new methane gas plants in Maryland and for supporting the ACE Act. In 2018, my son was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. And that's the kind of diabetes where you have to take insulin throughout the day, every day. My son needs it to stay alive. And in 2023, during an extreme heat event, pharmaceutical plants in various parts of the world had to shut down. They couldn't produce pharmaceuticals safely in the high heat conditions. And fortunately, insulin production was not affected that time. But I realized that that could be how climate change kills my son. And I don't know, do you have kids?
No, not currently.
Yeah, well, you know, if you did, you would realize that as a parent, it's your responsibility to do everything you can to protect your kids. And so that's why I'm here today. If we build another methane plant in Maryland, there will be leaks. They all leak. That methane is 80 times more potent a greenhouse gas than carbon dioxide. And as a parent, I can't stand for that. And especially when there's a much better alternative to build cheaper, clean, renewable energy as called for under the ACE Act. So I urge you to support that and oppose the Gas Power Plant Act. Thank you.
So Senator Dustin, I'm again Bill Massioli. You've heard from Rob compelling reasons for switching the state from devastating new fossil fuel production to increasing our in-state production of clean energy. We can do this, but we need to take action. The ACE Act puts the state on track to start to meet those goals. And especially as the federal supports are falling away, it becomes increasingly important for Maryland to act. Can we count on you when this comes before the committee that you chair to urge the passage of the act?
Well, you know, your stories are very compelling and heartfelt, but I do still have some lingering questions on how this bill will affect Marylanders and energy prices.
We have a fact sheet which answers some of those questions, and one of the things that's beneficial about the bill is that it requires that the cost of switching to clean energy production not be passed on to Maryland ratepayers. It will be paid by the utility companies, which can well afford it. I don't know if you have other questions, but we would be happy to meet with you again to try to answer them.
And in addition to the fact, the information that's been raised, if we're talking about what affects Marylanders' gas bills right now, gas or electric infrastructure, right now the thing that is raising Marylanders' bills is gas infrastructure through the STRIDE programs and through the hundreds of millions of dollars that have been expended on new gas infrastructure that will be retired because of our zero emissions standards. Right now, we need to be moving in the right direction at a faster pace than we are, and ACE is the way to do that. I understand you have questions about how it will work. We have policy experts who are happy to answer those. We'd love to set up another meeting so that we can make sure those questions are answered, and we look forward to your support on the bill when we do. In the meantime, we'd like to pass it to Susie over here to speak about Renew.
Thanks, Zippy. I grew up in Annapolis, and I can tell you that having grown up there and with family still living there, tornadoes are not a thing in Annapolis. But Senator Dustin, if you've been around for a while, you may remember that really bizarre tornado that ripped through Annapolis in 2021. The city government called it a disaster, the likes of which the city had rarely seen. And I'm particularly familiar with that tornado because it ended on my sister's property. And if you want a really great image to keep in mind that demonstrates that these natural disasters that are fueled by climate change are increasingly present, even in relatively safe places where you never would have thought that would be the case, I invite you to come over to my sister's house, and you can look about 100 feet up, and you'll see the shredded remains of a toddler wading pool that was deposited there from a house 2 miles away. And the tree removal people said they'll never be able to get that out because it's too high up for their equipment to reach. So I think that's a great image to keep in mind, is that shredded wading pool high up in that oak tree. But the thing that I really want you to think about is the cost of that. A tree came down in that storm into my sister's house. Rain poured into the house as a result. And she was really lucky because she had adequate insurance to cover the costs of removing the downed trees and fixing the house, etc. But we see in California with all the wildfires, the insurance companies are just stopping offering insurance as soon as disasters become too frequent. Pretty soon, we won't be able to get that kind of insurance to cover us. So who is it who covers those costs? And I know you are wrestling, as is everybody in the state of Maryland, with this nasty budget year. Well, here's a really, really good answer for you, is to support the Renew Act, because that's a way to get the people who caused the mess to cover the cleanup.
It's really interesting. I'd love to take a look.
And Joanna, you
I
you
was
wanted to make
wondering
the
if
ask.
I would
Yeah,
come
go
in
ahead.
there. Senator, can we count on your support for this bill, for the Renew Act?
You know, I wasn't quite sure. As you may know, I'm very hesitant to institute any new taxes. However, I do believe, just based on what you told me, that we can bring this bill to a vote.
Senator, given that counties are responsible for covering disaster funds already and that taxpayers fund those disaster relief funds, these are already taxes that are going up due to these companies. So effectively, this would reduce taxes on your constituents while eliminating a corporate subsidy for a product that has harmed those very constituents. So with that in mind, can we count on your support and for you to be a leading voice in passing the Renew Act this year?
Bring me the co-sponsor sheet. You got it.
Absolutely. We'll see you next week. But we want to pass it on to Mustafa to just summarize things and to go over our follow-up.
Yeah. Senator Dustin, just, thank you so much. I wanted to make sure, I know we will do a follow-up meeting on the ACE legislation. Is there any though outstanding questions for you on that bill at the moment?
What's going on with the gas stoves?
What's going on with the gas stoves? Okay, so we have a separate piece of legislation there. I know that's out there. They're called the Better Buildings Act, and it does actually require have an exemption for gas stoves. So it allows for people to be able to keep their gas stoves. We're not touching the gas stoves right now. But so it sounds like you are thinking that you're going to support that legislation at the moment, and maybe we just need a little bit more time to do some education on it before you bring it to the committee for hearing.
I believe so. However, point of order for committee business. Please call me Chair Dustin.
Chair Dustin. Yes, thank you. Chair Dustin. There you go.
Is there a special bow you would like?
And Chair Dustin, what would be the best way to schedule the follow-up meeting with you?
Just contact my office, talk to my legislative coordinator or my chief of staff, and we'll look at my calendar and see what time we're available. Awesome.
And so I'm hoping maybe we could get this meeting next week, just because I think it's the middle of February that there's the deadline for getting bills out of committee, and so we kind of need to get this scheduled quickly. So do you think that might be possible with your schedule? And I'll reach out to your scheduler.
Absolutely.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. And would love to take a picture with you, Chair Dustin. Can we do that virtually?
Oh yeah, let's do a selfie here.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much. And if it's okay with you, some of the constituents may share it on their social media and just tag you in it and share some appreciation for the meeting.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Dustin. And scene.
15 minutes and 10 seconds.
Awesome. Okay. Whew. Fantastic. So I want to invite folks to either unmute themselves or just to put responses in the chat. And maybe Sippy, if you can keep an eye on the chat for me as I'm facilitating this. But did folks hear a clear agenda, and was there a clear set of roles during that meeting? Was it clear what we were there to talk about, and did people plug into their roles? Keep in mind, that was actually an organic selection of roles. So the lobby captains who stepped up into those roles, stepped up to it in the moment.
Well, as a lobby captain and one of the role players, I would like to say that we did an outstanding job. But, you know,
Yeah.
I'm biased.
Yeah. Yeah. I think so. I thought the personal stories were effective, especially about pharmaceuticals and how it can affect somebody's diabetes. So I thought that was especially effective.
Thank you.
Yeah, Susie, I have the image of the toddler wading pool. It's just hanging from the top, very tip top of that tree. That's seared into my memory. Went really well done there too.
Yeah, thanks. And that was actually a note to self, because I realized at the end, I just kind of stopped and I was like, what am I supposed to do next? So that's a good note to self, to always know what's the next thing.
You did fantastic. You did fantastic. But we had several folks who were the pitchers. I think we had Joanna who was making a pitcher, and then it was Bill. Were the asks clear to Senator Dustin, to Chair Dustin? Chair Dustin, my apologies. If so, what did you recall the asks being?
Well, definitely the Renew Act, even though Chair Dustin was reluctant to impose a new tax in Maryland, but an ACE was another one, and I thought they came through. I think that Chair Dustin may have been more informed than many of the legislators we will be meeting, but
Yeah, absolutely. One note about these asks, it's important to know, as Mike, as you were saying, alluding to, it's important to know who you're meeting with. If you're meeting with a chair, right, that they have a certain level of authority, or even a vice chair of a committee has a certain level of authority. So, when you're meeting with somebody who has authority about whether this thing's actually going to move, or like you can really ask them beyond just supporting, what can you bring this to your committee for a vote? When can you bring this to your committee for a vote? You can get, because they have the authority to really, particularly the chairs, to schedule that. And I love Tippy's follow-up about, can we have you be a champion of this? Like, can you be a co-sponsor of the legislation? So nice job. Glenn, and then we'll go to the practice.
Yeah, I'm just curious. I thought that the asks were very specific, but there was no really description of any details of these bills. And when we're actually in the office of a legislator, are we supposed to give the basic points of each bill, or are they going to already have read it, or how much do we have to get into those details?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think that certainly when Dustin seemed to be informed on the bills, right? So some of it's going to come out in the questions. When you reach out to, when you when you schedule the meeting, that's an opportunity to just let them know what bills you want to be talking about. You can also just like the day or two beforehand, when you're confirming the meeting as a lobby captain, say, hey, these are the bills that we want to be sure to talk about. With a chair or vice chair of a committee, they're very likely to know about the bills that are going to be coming before their committee or that are before their committee. And so I think it certainly could be that for the people who are teeing up to do the stories, you can do like a 1 or 2 sentence summary of the bill. But it's not really an emphasis to get into the details of the bill here. We have policy people that are lobbyists that are walking around and talking to them about the details of these bills, particularly for the really significant targets. And it's really the top priority goal is for you to convey why these bills are important to you and to make these asks. And the information that you get back, the info that you get back from these meetings will be very, very helpful. Okay, great. I'll definitely hang out for a few minutes at the end here to answer more questions. And you may be able to ask some questions just during you will certainly be able to ask some questions during your breakout. So I want to get into the breakout so folks can have the opportunity to meet and do a prep session and to practice talking to your legislator, to get into that practice.
Are we coming
So
back
I'm gonna,
full group after the breakouts?
we will come back, and it will be a few minutes before the top of the bottom of the hour. The bottom of the hour, right? That's the phrase. I don't know. Anyway, a few minutes before 8 o'clock.
Do we have sheets that will be giving the legislatures, not to mention also reviewing ourselves, that lay out all the features that we need to be aware of in the bills?
Yes. I'm going to put the link again to the folder into the chat that has those documents and organized for you there. So I'll do that just in a second here. And Dustin, are we ready with the breakout groups?
Yes. So what I want to do is a little different from what we discussed. We're doing it live. Because we have roughly 10 lobby captains on the call this evening. But some people have dropped. Not everyone's name matches what I have, so I'm not sure who everyone is. So what I'd like you to do on your Zoom, lobby captains, on your Zoom, scroll down to the bottom of your screen where it says react. And I would like you to raise your hand. Tell us which district you are. Then I'm going to create the breakout room. So everyone else, you are, if you hear your district name by our lovely lobby captains, I would like you to join their breakout room. If you don't hear your district, if you're from Montgomery County, Prince George's County, or Southern Maryland, you're going to join my breakout group. If you are from Baltimore, Howard County, Frederick County, you'll join Zippy's, and Mustafa, everywhere else in the state is going to have your own breakout room. Does that sound all right? Does that sound okay to everyone? Or would you like a different format, Mustafa? I think that would be easier because we got a bunch of people here.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, let me see here. Breakout room. So we have.
Is it possible to get off the screen share? I can only see 4 people on the right. There, thank you.
You got it. My apologies. Good call.
Thank you.
So I'm gonna make 10 breakout.
And sorry, Dustin, for some reason, my React thing isn't giving me a raise hand option and none of the
Oh.
other tabs are, which I don't know why.
You are good. So I'm going to say, so we have Bill, D18. We have Susie, District 20. We have John Eckenrode, under an alias. You are District 45. All right, we have Miss Johanna. Let's see, District 15. Susan. 14. Julia. In wonderful. You're out in Frederick, right, Julia? Where are you at? Or I think Montgomery County. All right, we have Sister Mary Jo. Are you still with us? Let me move things around.
I'm here.
Oh, there we go. Okay, so Sister Mary Jo, District 41. Mr. Brody, may I ask you which district you are?
PG County.
What is your legislative district number?
Beats the heck out of me.
Okay, let me see. Let me see real quick. I got you.
Mitchellville, Bowie.
Yeah. I may have a couple ideas, but let's see.
I'm from Bowie and I'm in 23.
Let's just say 23. Let's see this thing. 23. All right. Oops. I need to get a second monitor. Howard County for you, Zippy. Okay. So we are doing breakout rooms here. If you see your district, please join that breakout room. I'm going to assign Mustafa. All right, so breakout rooms are open. Let's head into ours.
Where do we? I don't see
I
where
don't
they are.
see it either.
Where's my,
Down at the bottom of your screen where it says breakout rooms.
Oh, yeah.
It might be under more in some screens.
Yes.
3
yes,
dots.
that's true. Yeah. So it's kind of like the Windows, the Microsoft Windows icon. It's 4 little squares, making a bigger square. If you don't see it, click the 3 dots where it says more.
wait a minute. Sorry. Uh-oh.
I guess you didn't put a one for 43 there, Dustin.
So you'll be
where do
you'll
I
be
go?
with Zippy in Baltimore, and I think you lobbied me once in real life.
Which
For-
is the one? What number is the one in Baltimore?
So it should just say Baltimore, Frederick, Howard County.
Oh, okay, fine.
Oh, wait a minute, as opposed to D41, don't go there, go to,
Yes, go to District 41, please.
oh, wait a minute.
And I will give me 1 second, Miss Arlene. I'll put you there.
Oh, wait a minute, I see,
I just gave it to you.
yeah,
And then Katie,
Yeah,
you're District 40.
I thought I was 33.
You're 33?
Well, I'm Sabrina Park. I thought that was 33.
Okay. All right. I must have, some of our districts are a little not accurate in our database. but you'll be with me.
I'll be with you.
Mhm.
So join.
No, I just put you in. Is that everybody? Okay.
I came back because there was nobody in my room but me.
Same here.
I went to the wrong place. I thought Mustafa said I was going to be in his group, but then I ended up with a whole different group.
What district are you all in?
I'm in District 33, which isn't even up there.
Oh, okay.
I'm in 45.
I'm in 23, but yeah, I'm kind of wondering if I should just join the PG County one.
That's the one I was just in by mistake.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm in Anne Arundel County.
Okay. I'm just gonna pop out and join that one.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Yeah, figure out how to. Oh.
What did everyone think of that?
I want to say that we had an excellent leader. He was very informed. It was great, and we got to meet each other.
Wonderful.
Bill
That
and
was
I were the
Zippy.
only two in our group, so we mostly just strategized.
Okay.
We didn't practice because we'd both practiced
I thought I
previously
sent
in
someone to you.
Annapolis.
I
No,
thought
it
I
was
sent you
just
some
us.
people.
No, it was just us in D18.
They must have dropped.
But we both felt that Zippy gave a very good model for how to respectfully respond with substantive, no bullshit responses to questions. I thought she did a really good job, and I'd like to be more like her.
Wonderful, wonderful. I know in my group, and I definitely love for anyone to speak up on this, but we had a lot of great opportunities. Someone mentioned, well, what if my legislator, their priorities are more, education or children? They're not specifically on climate. How would you, and Mustafa, I see you raise your hand. How would you respond to that? How would you respond, Mustafa?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question, Dustin? I was going to contribute something else.
Oh, so my question was, someone had mentioned that their legislator is really, their concern isn't so much about the climate, but more education, children, childcare, that sort of thing. So how would you pivot back to the crux of these bills?
Okay, got it. I would say that I'm remembering the Canadian wildfires. I was just talking about this with Katie, and the consequences for my community. I've got two little girls, 4 and 2 years old, and at the time, I would have almost a 15-minute walk for the both of them to their daycare, and it was the first time I ever had to put masks on both of them while outside, and I had to cover the whole stroller in a protective sheet in plastic. And to me, this is about this is about our kids, and it's about addressing the climate crisis. It's about the healthcare for them. I don't want them to be getting asthma or respiratory illnesses because fossil fuel companies can't clean up their mess. And I think that I would want for my children to have lots of money, their communities have lots of money to be able to make their communities habitable and hopefully more than that, comfortable and healthy for them to live in. And I think that the people who made the mess should pay for it.
Excellent. Mustafa, do you think we have enough time to hear from 1 or 2 more people before we go to next steps?
Yeah, I know. Recognizing that we're a few minutes over here, and so folks are, of course, understand if you need to top off, please do. Dustin will send a follow-up email tomorrow morning to everybody with all of the links and the opportunities for taking action in the next steps, so you won't miss anything if you need to hop. But Dustin, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So let's, if we can hear from 1 more person, what did you learn, and how can you best prepare between now and lobby night? So what's something new that that you thought of, that you learned, and what do you want to do to make sure that you're ready for lobby night on the 24th? And then we'll close this out. Glenn, go ahead.
Well, it was brought up by one of the people in our group that often legislators end up giving you a lot less time than you originally planned. So one thing that it was suggested was that practice giving a 30-second summary of all 3 bills. If you can do that, you can probably squeeze in a lot of information in a short time. If you think ahead of time, what's really just the essentials. And because you don't want to cut out anything, you don't want to eliminate anything, but just the essentials.
I do want to get back to Ms. Uta. Do you have something briefly? Do you have?
It's not important. Just go ahead. Go ahead. We're over
Okay.
time.
Just want to go over what's coming up next, and I can bring it back to you, Ms. Uta. So first thing, and maybe I can share my screen here, or if you want to put the slide deck back up just on the last slide, Mustafa.
Yeah, give me 1 sec.
Yep. And Susie, while we're getting that set up, do you have?
Oh, just a quick thing. Eric and I just need more people. I think we're really going to be in great shape, but we just need more people. So if anybody knows any people in the Tacoma Parky kind of area, let us know. But also, how do we I'm sure many of us know people who are not in our own districts. How do we find out which districts need more people for lobby night so that we can help brainstorm for people in other districts and get people connected?
I will let you know. I will let you know because we've got a couple more lobby captains. I got to get in touch with a couple more people to confirm their availability. I'm updating my list, but we are on our way. We are making very, very good progress, I believe. And thank you all for the lobby captains for joining us this evening.
And once we make the latest update to the lobby captain database, we can also share specific pages of it with you so that you can see which districts are covered for which legislators and which are still open.
Yeah. So here's what's coming up next. First thing, lobby night on February 24th. And we're going to put those links in the chat for you all. And then right after that, please make sure you connect with your lobby captain and team members via email. So keep an eye out for our follow-up email so we can connect you all, get you started. If you're a lobby captain, we need your help recruiting members in your district. So Susie, I helped you get text messages set up to a few hundred people within your district, and I think we had 1 or 2 people say that they could come tonight. We also have phone call lists, so our members, people that signed a petition, did a training, anything like that. We have a list of those folks for you to call and make those connections. Our next lobby captain training is going to be in Annapolis, and on the Matrix, it will be hybrid from 6 to 8 p.m. on February 13th. Keep an eye out for some changes and additional information regarding that. We may be planning some great programming for you all. If you can make it to Annapolis, please let me know. And it's a really great way to get acquainted with the Capitol grounds. I worked in the Senate, so really just the ways that I would go, that was the most of what I knew. It wasn't really until the first day of session that I was like, okay, well, this committee's over here, all of the different places. So we all need to get our bearings because it can be a little confusing. Attend or submit testimony for ACE. The hearing is in the Economic Matters Committee on February 6th. That is next Thursday. So you will need to have your testimony, if you would like to submit testimony on ACE in the House, submit it to the Economic Matters Committee by Tuesday. And we're going to make sure that you have the appropriate links that you're all signed up for a MyMGA account. That's what you'll need to submit testimony. The Renew Act, it is going to be heard in the Triple E Committee on the 13th. So on Thursday, the 13th, you'll have to submit your testimony by February the 11th. That prior Tuesday, the Abundant and Affordable Clean Energy Act is also going to be heard at that same hearing on the 13th at 1 p.m. So you could do both if you like. If you remember that Del Taco commercial, why not both? You could submit testimony for both bills. That'd be nice. Join our Climate Champs distributed calling team. So I facilitate through the use of our auto dialer tool a bi-weekly, I don't know how it goes, but every Monday and Friday, 4 to 7 p.m. Join me on Zoom to get started. We're going to put the Mobilize link in the chat for you to sign up. That is how I will send you the Zoom link. So make sure you sign up using that link. We have people actually joining from all over the country. We had callers coming in from Hawaii. We have students in Illinois. Everyone is calling into Maryland, and they are saying that this is where it is going to happen. Especially if folks live in a red state or just wherever that climate progress is being stymied or actually taken back. They're looking to us as the next frontier in this struggle for climate action. So come join us. We're calling statewide. We are recruiting new lobby captains and new lobby volunteers, 4 to 7 p.m. Go ahead, Mustafa.
Yeah, and just as we wrap up, I wanted to share that actually this is the SIPI is going to be moving on from CCAN and will be still in the movement, working for the Sierra Club based out of Illinois. But this is going to be SIPI's last virtual training with us. And SIPI will be staying on through February 7th. So we just want to share lots of love and appreciation and snaps for SIPI for helping to build our lobbying program.
Thank you, Zippy.
And if you still want to meet before I go, and if you have questions about how to get set for lobby day or how to get involved with the student lobby day or what's going on with the Baltimore team, I'll drop my email and my link to schedule a one-on-one in the chat, and I'll see you here or later. I'll probably also stick on the Discord for a while if they let me.
Okay, thanks everybody so much, and I'm happy myself to stick around for a few more minutes if folks have questions, but folks should definitely feel free to hop off.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Yes.
Bye.
Mustafa, I had a quick question about the testimony for the Renew Act.
Yeah.
I submitted testimony for the House to the House on that. Can I just make appropriate modifications and submit the same text?
Yeah, you can absolutely do that.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. Appropriate modifications, just change the committee name, change the chair's name, and all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Bob, you got a question?
Will you be providing a link to the text of the 3 acts that you want us to talk about?
Yeah, absolutely. We will do that in a follow-up email. That's an obvious and a great point. So we should link to those in the follow-up email, Dustin.
Thank you.
Any other questions that folks have? Susie, go ahead.
Yeah, I had a couple questions. One is Eric has dropped off, but he's new to CCAN and but has a lot of his experience with Sierra Club. And he knows a ton about every kind of energy source. And so I think, I mean, we'll use him for ACE for our lobby night, but is there a way that his technical expertise can be useful? I'm going to suggest that he submit written testimony for ACE, because I think he, you know, could do that very well. But just wanted to put that out there in case his technical
Absolutely
would be useful.
Yeah, if you happen to have somebody on your team that seems to be really into the weeds and wonky, and submitting written testimony is great. If they want to like escalate themselves, they want to get sort of more involved. What I would request that you do is that you can email either myself or Dustin.
Perfect.
And just like connect them, and we would really like to invite them to be showing up more often to help lobby. We would also, you know, welcome for them to connect with our Maryland director, who gets really into the weeds on, you know, specific questions that they are addressing from legislators. And so if they wanted to be like, help be more of a resource on these really technical questions as they come to us, I would directly connect them with our Maryland director. Yeah.
Great. And then the other question I had was, I watched the Renew Act, or the hearing that included the Renew Act. It was fabulous.
Oh,
it was so
good
well
on you.
done. Yeah, really,
You know,
really well done. And so I wasn't clear, are all of the people submitting oral testimony, are there a limited number of slots, or is it kind of like as many people as want to show up and give oral testimony? Is that desirable?
I'm going to ask for Dustin to answer that question. I also just wanted to say that Susie, I mean, all the written testimony that was submitted for that was really important, really impactful. And Dustin actually went to all of the to your legislators' offices, both the, you know, on the committee and legislators that are not on the committee, and actually shared with them your pieces of written testimony. So just thank you for taking the time to do that. But Dustin, yeah, what's the cap and on the oral testimony? How do they manage that?
Yeah, I did want to say I got my steps in that day, most definitely. So you have a legal right to 2 minutes of oral testimony. So anyone can provide oral testimony and sign up to do that. Our focus is written testimony from volunteers, and then we have a sponsor panel. So the sponsor panel is specifically tied to either a legislator on that committee, or whomever is supporting the bill. So whatever legislator is the primary sponsor of the bill, they can bring their, you know, panel of 3 to 4 experts. It depends on each committee. Like with the Renew Act, we had Brittany, we had representatives from a couple different organizations and watchdog groups to deliver not just testimony, but also answer questions from legislators in that hearing, because sometimes it goes back and forth. But everyone gets 2 minutes, no matter what.
That's great. Well, I can understand if it's not considered friendly if too many people come. So want to be effective. But what you all did, what you lined up, the different points of view and constituencies represented, it was just terrific.
For each of our hearings on our bills, either, you know, Dustin or myself or both of us will be there. And even if you're not having the opportunity to testify orally, showing up, being visible is so important. And it's also a great opportunity that, particularly if you've got any of your legislators are on that committee, it's an opportunity to catch them we can try to catch them before the meeting or right afterwards and just say, hey, I wanted to follow up on, I sent an email about this, or, you know, and I wanted to see, you know, check in with you, see how you're feeling about this. I also wanted to give you this resource, like I've submitted written testimony. This is my story. If it's a helpful tool for advocacy for you, please do use it. You know, so it's an opportunity to actually catch them for a few minutes. Great. John, and last question, and we'll wrap it up.
Okay, yeah, as far as the written testimony goes, is it just that they leave like an 8-hour window 2 days before that to submit written testimony?
Yeah, and I think this is just the norm for this year. I don't know, like I don't have any recollection of it from last year, which is a little bit annoying because it's like, you know, right, if the hearing's on a Thursday, you got to submit it Tuesday between, I believe it's 8
and 6, right?
8 to 6.
Oh, 8 to 6.
Is that right, Dustin? 8 to 6?
Yeah, yes, I was responding to Susie's. I should have just put that in the chat. So yes, it is February 4th, the deadline to testimony.
Yeah.
But
So you got to log into MyMGA and you have to submit it that way. It's just annoying that it's a time window.
Right. Okay.
You know?
It was 10 to 6 for the Renew Act.
10 to 6. I misspoke there. Thank you. Yeah, 10 to 6.
So when you are submitting testimony, and we'll send this out to everyone before each hearing, but check the committee rules on the MGA website. Each committee is different, and these changes, the 2-day thing, is new. It's new this year. We didn't do it last year. It was like the day before. But there are a lot of technical issues, Zooms, echoes, all kinds of stuff that they didn't like. So they do want those things in quicker, and it also reduces the amount of testimony and people signing up to provide oral testimony at the very least, because they do run pretty late if there's a lot of people.
John, you got one more? You have another question? No? Okay, great. Well, thanks to all of you, Julia, Glenn, John, and Susie. Yeah, really, y'all are amazing people and amazing advocates. So thanks for showing up tonight and for being a part of the lobby program.
Just one thing. How do I change the name on here from my wife's name to mine? Anybody know?
Well, I kind of get a chuckle out of it, John. I don't know.
You should be able to click the three dots in the upper right-hand corner.
Uh-huh.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
On the upper right-hand corner of your picture.
Right. Rename. Oh, great. Yeah, there you go. Oh, good idea. Oh, thank you.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. But we know who you are. You are well known in this space. So don't worry about that.
Thank you. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks so much to all of you. Bye.
Thank you so
Mustafa, do
much,
you want to
guys.
stay on?
Really great.
Thanks.
So
Thanks,
much.
Susie.
Bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.